مسيكن بالخير مشاهدينا مرة جديدة. ضيفي باستوديو هو الكوميدي والممثل أحمد، ويا ريت كان فيني بلش المقابلة من البريك من تحت الهواء، وإذا كنت أنا وأحمد عم نتسير وعم نخبر أخبار كتير حلو، بس رح أرجع أنقلكم كل التفاصيل هلا لايف. Hello Ahmed, how are you?
Hi, Marhaba, how are you?
Very good, very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
To the bridge. Welcome on ART America. A lot of our viewers love you. Love
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, they follow you actually step by step, because not only because you're gifted, not only because you're talented and because you present good work, but because also you present a dream for many of those Arab Americans that they're watching us who really want to be, and be something like an actor, actress, a comedian, but they are scared of that part where you have to defy your family first and foremost, and then you have to defy all the odds of making it in such a difficult and horrible situation. So how did you make it? Did you have to defy your family?
Well, I'm still trying to make it.
I mean, we always, as actors, you're always not fulfilled, right?
Yeah. You always want to go to the next level creatively.
Sure.
I moved to Hollywood when I was 19. And my mother and father, they're watching right now, so I don't think they're going to be happy to hear this. But they weren't happy. They wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and I was just very in love with movies and TV shows. I grew up watching sitcoms and would always go to the movies on Saturday and Sunday and sneak around and watch all the movies. And I became in love with the art form of cinema. So I moved to Hollywood. My mother was worried. My father wasn't very happy, and I just started auditioning and taking acting classes, and I started booking small parts here and there. And then I started getting cast to play a lot of terrorist roles. So it was the terrorist in this movie, the terrorist in that movie. It was always the bad guy, the Arab bad guy.
So always the stereotype.
It was always a stereotype. And then one
which
day...
is hard because you want to break out of this because you're an actor, you're not an Arab stereotype.
Yeah. So I called my agent one day and I said, hey, I just want to audition for the regular guy, like the doctor, the lawyer, or whatever. And she insisted that I change my name, and I didn't want to change my name, and then the phone stopped ringing.
Wow.
So there weren't any parts out there for the mainstream Arab American guy. I was born in Egypt but raised in California. So
But you obviously don't have an accent. You're like you grew up here.
Westernized, yeah. Which I think is the irony of it. It's like I can't get a regular gig in Hollywood, but because they don't think I'm American enough. But I'm more American than most. So it's like sort of a hypocrisy happening. But I got into stand-up comedy. I ran out of money and I went back to being a waiter at a restaurant. And I found this really great gift of making people laugh at my tables and getting big tips. And I thought, if I can make money as a waiter, serving food, making people laugh, then surely I can do this on a bigger scale and take it to the stage. And so I did eventually. And I started doing open mic nights and amateur nights and contests. And at the time, this was like 1997, 98. So there weren't any Middle Eastern comedians, Arab American comedians, Muslim comedians, nobody. I was pretty much the only guy out there doing it on a sort of public scale.
Sure.
I got passed to be a paid regular at the world famous Comedy Store, which is owned by a woman named Mitzi Shore. Mitzi Shore.
But were you using the stereotyping? Were you using the jokes about Muslim Arabs that you used?
Yeah. I was talking about my family a lot, and talking about being raised as a Middle Eastern Muslim, and doing jokes about my parents, and not jokes, just more like impressions and storytelling and stuff like that. And it was sort of like, this is interesting, and it's culturally different, and then September 11th happened, and it just, everything got flipped on its head. It was almost like taboo to talk about that. But at the Comedy Store, Mitzi Shore, the woman I was talking about, she championed a lot of voices in the comedy world, like Richard Pryor, and Jim Carrey and Robin Williams and people like that, of that stature. So she put together a show called Arabian Nights. It was with myself, a Palestinian guy named Aaron Cater, half Palestinian, and an Iranian guy named Maz Jobrani. and we started becoming popular. This is after September 11th. But we had a lot of Iranians coming to the shows, and they started sort of questioning why we called ourselves the Arabian Nights, because Maz is Iranian.
Yeah, Farsi, and yeah.
He's not Arab, so they were like, we had our own empire. What are you doing? And I always do a joke how Iranians call themselves Persian.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm Egyptian. I don't call myself a pharaoh.
Yeah.
It's like, just keep it simple. You're Iranian. So we changed the name.
The politics were very delicate.
Well, that's why we changed it, because of the sort of internal. You have to remember, most of America, they just think the Middle East, we're all one thing.
Absolutely.
You know, most Arabs are Muslim, most Muslims aren't Arab. Most people don't put that, they just think we're all one culture, religion, you know. So we changed the name to the Axis of Evil Comedy Tour. It was when President Bush coined the phrase, we stole it from him. We put Comedy Tour on the end. And we toured all over America. We were the first Middle Eastern comedy show on Comedy Central. We ended up going to the Middle East and doing sold out shows in Egypt, Lebanon, Dubai. Eventually went to Palestine, Syria.
King Abdullah also, like from Jordan, right?
Yeah.
He attended one of. Was
did.
it in Jordan?
We were in Amman, Jordan. It was the first time we performed there.
And he himself attended your show.
His Majesty and his wife, Queen Rania, and their 2 kids. And they told us that he was coming to the show, but I didn't think they were serious. And we were in our hotel room getting ready. It was connected to the venue. And I hear all this, woo, 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 you know.
And that was him.
Yeah, motorcade and police and security everywhere. And we looked over the balcony, and we see this, everybody's cell phones were shut down. And we got to the venue, and you know, there's security everywhere, and they said, when the king sits, the show starts. So he sat down, I went up on stage, I said my first joke, I don't even remember what I said, but he laughed, and I thought, you know, whew, good.
Yeah, now we can say, it seems like you're always not believing when you get a phone call from a high profile, or you get a news that, you know, someone like high profile is coming. Like, isn't it the same thing happened when you got an email from the White House asking you to attend their iftar?
Yeah, so stand-up comedy, sometimes you just get invited to the weirdest, like, you know, I've met the most interesting, fascinating people, you know, real like movers and shakers of the world, and I would have never guessed that stand-up comedy.
Everybody wants to laugh.
Everyone wants to laugh, but a lot of people don't take comedians seriously. You know, it's like we take ourselves more seriously than other people take us. But I made this documentary about comedy in the Middle East after our Axis of Evil comedy tour. I returned to the Middle East. We did Egypt, Saudi, Lebanon, Dubai, and I made this documentary about it. It was premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Was it Just Like Us?
Just Like Us.
Just Like Us, that's the one, yeah.
The website's justlikeusthemovie.com. It's available. You can get it online. And we went to 30 film festivals after that. But somebody in Barack Obama's camp was, I guess, at the festival and saw a screening of the documentary. And I received an email that said, "Dear Mr. Ahmed, the President of the United States, Barack Obama, cordially invites you to the White House for his annual iftar dinner. Please RSVP." And you know, all my friends are comedians, so I thought somebody was playing a joke. So I replied, "LOL, who's this?"
Yeah.
And then they replied back, "This is a real invite. You know, if you want to come, you need to show up and let us know."
I do want to come.
So I showed up, yeah, and it was a great experience. There was about 150 Muslims, you know, nicely dressed, kind of gathering outside, waiting to go in. And for a second, I thought, you know, they were going to drop a net on us or something like that. They got us. Oh, there it is.
Yes, here you are with President Barack Obama.
He was with me.
He was with you. I'm sorry, he was with you. And you were having like that, you know, one-on-one talk, right? What were you guys talking about?
He went and shook everybody's hand, one by one. There was, like I said, about 150 of us. And when he got to me, I didn't know what do you say to the president?
Yeah.
So I just said, "Assalamu alaikum." And he
and
said,
that's your only word in Arabic that you say, right?
And he said, "Alaikum salam." And I said, "Thank you so much for having me at this dinner. It's a big honor. Somebody from your camp invited me."
Sure.
He said, "It's an honor to have you. Thanks for coming." And I said, "You don't know who I am, but I made a documentary about comedy in the Middle East. We were in Saudi Arabia the same day you were there to meet the king. And he said, what were you doing in Saudi? I said, we were there doing comedy shows. And he said, in English? And I said, yeah. And he said, and they get it? And I was like, yeah, they breathe over there too. Like they're human beings, you know?
Yeah.
Sure. And I said, I brought a copy of my documentary. I gave it to your assistant. I'd be honored, if you took a look at it. And he said, well, how long is it? And I said, it's 72 minutes. He said, well, I can't promise you 72, but I'll give you 30.
Everything is timed.
And then he walked away, and then I thought, well, then get Michelle, your wife, to watch the other 42 minutes, make her watch the other part of it. But that was the conversation we were having.
Yeah. So President Barack Obama invited you to iftar, but you got also invited to another iftar, a very important one, when Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, Secretary of State at the time, Hillary Clinton, she also hosted an iftar dinner like 2 weeks later. I don't know if they're having like competing iftar dinners or whatever. But the one that she had like 400 people there, and it was all Muslims under 40. So people that were progressive in their industry. So it was doctors, lawyers, dancers, novelists, cartoonists, comedians. It was a whole just wide spectrum of people. And
were you able to talk to Secretary Clinton back then?
Yeah, she actually sat right.
Few words. Oh, she did.
She sat right across the table from me at dinner, and she leaned over and she said, "So tell me about your documentary."
Wow. And
sitting next to me was the ambassador to Kuwait, and I was like, "Don't you want to talk to this guy first? He's more important, I think." We spoke. It was very brief. She couldn't have been nicer. She actually wrote me a letter the next day. I had gone on tour for a month. I came home and there was a letter from the State Department with her signature saying, "Great to meet you. Thanks for coming to my dinner. Best of luck."
How special? So who's cooler, Hillary or Barack?
Who's cooler?
Yeah.
That's a politically loaded question. I don't know. I mean, they were both nice. I think Barack Obama, he served our country for 8 years as our president and commander in chief. So that's got to be a pretty cool job, I guess.
Now, you moved to New York.
Yeah.
From LA.
Yes.
Back to New York, or basically not back to New York. You've never lived in New York before, right?
I lived here.
Except like the tours?
Well, when I made my documentary, Just Like Us, we produced it and edited the film here. So I lived here for about 3 years on and off from 2009 to 2011.
But now you're living here.
Now here full time.
And it's just because you are a writer and director, and you have like scripts, you have ideas, you have things, you have a lot of dreams that you want to fulfill, and obviously New York is the place to be.
If they say if you make it in New York, you make it anywhere in the world. So I had a long run in Los Angeles. I love Los Angeles. I love the weather. But it's also, it could be a very kind of lazy city if you don't have a lot going on.
Right.
I was sort of in between creatively what I wanted to do. And I had an opportunity to come to New York and hopefully start another project and amongst
So is this exactly what you want to do if you had to choose, between a comedian, stand-up comedian, an actor in movies, or basically writer and director, probably of documentaries? Which part of that beautiful career you'd like to be, you'd like to find yourself?
I want to continue to practice all the art forms. Like I love stand-up comedy. I'll always do stand-up comedy. It keeps the lights on. It's the craft that I learned how to do. It's like a carpenter or a blacksmith. Like I know how to do it. Do I want to do it my whole life and all the time? No. You want to diversify and broaden your portfolio. So I have a couple scripts that I've co-written with some really great writers. There's a technology arm of my business that I'm trying to develop that I'm excited about for comedians. It's an application for comedians. And then there's another, feature film that I think I'm going to make with my partner I did Just Like Us with, and that's one of the reasons I moved here to kind of, put our brains together and figure out what the next step is.
What about sitcoms? You've had a wonderful run with Sullivan and Son.
I did. It was a great experience.
How was the experience?
I got to work with some of the most talented people. Vince Vaughn was one of the executive producers, and Peter Billingsley. They're both friends of mine I've known for 20 plus years. Rob Long, who was the showrunner on Cheers, so having him was great. Steve Byrne wrote and created it. He's an Asian American comedian. And he called me up one day and he said, I am making this TV show and I want you to be in it. So I didn't even audition. They just...
But you were not playing as the stereotype, the Arabic terrorist stereotype. You had a completely different part. What was it?
I played a guy named Ahmed, who was kind of based on me. He's a guy wrote sort of hopeless romantic in his 40s, who's a tow truck driver, which is funny because my father had a tow truck company when he was younger, like my age. So, but he was just a regular guy, like hanging out in a bar in Pittsburgh with all his friends, and it ran for 3 seasons. Christine Ebersol was on the show. She's a 2-time Tony Award-winning actress, and Dan Lauria, who was the father on Wonder Years, and Brian Doyle Murray, who wrote Caddyshack, Bill Murray's brother.
How impressive! How
it was great.
How educational it is to be surrounded by people that like have so much talent.
Yeah, I mean, the whole cast. We have 10 people on the cast. Vivian Bang, who's a really well-known working actress, and Valerie Aslan, Jodie Long, who's been on Broadway. She's on a TV show right now on the USA Network. Owen Benjamin, who's a comedian. Roy Wood Jr., who's on The Daily Show now with Trevor Noah. So it's nice to see your friends. Even if the show didn't last, it's nice to see people that were working with you go on and do other great projects and stuff.
Do you still connected with a lot of people that you've worked with people? I mean, like, how does it work in that field? In the show business, is it really so unpersonal like people think, or there's a big part of really personal relationship that are built at a certain time and that are kept through the times?
I think when you work with a group of people for a long period of time, you just naturally become like a family. Everyone that I worked on Sullivan and Son with, I'm still very close with and have great friendships with. Some films that I've done, I still have friendships with. Like I said, Peter Billingsley and Vince Vaughn, I met when we were 19 years old on an after-school special before Vince was even famous.
Yeah.
And Peter Billingsley was a well-known child actor. He was in the movie A Christmas Story. He played Ralphie in The Christmas Story. And then he went on to produce the first Iron Man movie and 4 Christmases and The Breakup, and now he's a big director and he produces now TV shows and such. But as far as the comedy world is concerned, comedians by nature don't know how to work as a team. It's an individual sport, unless you're a producer of a show or whatever, but it's a very individual sport, so there's not a lot of
collaboration.
There's not a lot of camaraderie. I mean, a lot of comics will hang out together if you don't feel threatened by them or whatever. But what I found out, and I've been doing it 25 years, the older I'm getting and the more stand-up comedy I'm doing, I find like there's more of a division in the stand-up comedy world because it's not a group thing. We're not exchanging. It's not sketch or TV or film. There's no script. I'm doing my act, you're doing your act.
It's a monologue.
It's a monologue. So there's a selfishness about it. I mean, I hate to say it, but I love it. I'll always do it, and I have some great friends that are stand-up comics, and I admire some of the best comics out there right now are right out of New York City.
We obviously hear a lot in Hollywood, and like big actors, they step down actually on big stages like the Oscars and spoke about gender inequality in the payment, like we saw Meryl Streep, Julianne Moore, and many others. Many other actors, also black, they spoke about discrimination between black and white and the parts that studio producers, they grant for those people. Obviously, as an Arab American, you are facing many challenges from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Arabs, we're the new black. We're the last in line when it comes to, getting the type of roles and parts that I think we deserve. Also, Hollywood isn't writing roles for us, and it's not their job to.
But is it for you, like you just mentioned that you want to audition for a regular role? You can play. You don't look like like a typical. There
are a lot of
you can be anything. You can play an Italian guy. You can play.
Some Arab actors will change their name, and I think it's great. I respect them, in that sense, because at the end of the day, we just want to work.
Exactly.
But as a comedian, I couldn't call myself Mike Jones. I don't look like a Mike Jones, As an actor, if I would have called myself Mike Jones from the beginning, I could have rode that, ride that wave. But I feel like
You're Ahmed Ahmed.
I'm Ahmed. It's who I am. It's
Yeah.
my brand. It's my name. It's my God-given name. My mom named me the name. So for me to try to
They
go
loved
back,
you so much, they named you twice.
they named so nice. They named me twice.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what? And I respect you for that, and I'm sure like many fans and many viewers, they respect you for that choice. It's a conscious choice that you made, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've played my share of terrorist roles. I've had backlash from it. I've had people hit me on Facebook saying, "You're a sellout. And what are you doing?" And I'm like, "They're going to give it to the Mexican guy if I don't take it." You know.
Yeah.
But I don't pride myself in that kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm writing my own material now. I want to produce my own material. It's really up to the Arab and Arab American and Middle Eastern artist community to even do what you guys are doing. Set up a studio, get your own talk show. Really show America and the rest of the world that Arab women look like you, Arab men look like me.
Yeah.
It's not just images you see on the news of people going screaming and yelling and doing all that stuff. It's like the Middle East, the Arab world's,
So diversified.
it's so diversified and it's so becoming more Western to the point where, and that's one of the reasons I made my documentary. I wanted to show people that there are parts in the Middle East, the majority of the Middle East.
They get it,
is
actually.
just like us.
Yeah, you were doing a show in Saudi Arabia, and the president asked you, did they get it? Of course they get it.
They get it.
The American culture is everywhere.
And with the internet and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, technology has really made the world a smaller place. Snapchat.
Sure.
I don't even hang out with my friends anymore. I just look at their Snapchat feed.
Yeah.
And then I'm not hanging out with you.
them.
Yeah,
exactly.
like, you know what they're doing every day.
So where was your best spot in the Middle East?
You asked me that earlier. That's a tough
I asked
question.
you, but the viewers didn't hear the answer.
For the viewers. I mean, I've been to almost all the countries in the Middle East except for Tunisia and Morocco. I have not been.
You haven't been to that part.
Sudan, no. But I'm from Egypt, so Dunya. That's my.
Masr Dunya. Okay, I got my answer. I got my answer.
But I love Lebanon. I've been to Oman. That's a lovely country. Dubai obviously has all the frills and fun things to do, and Jordan is a beautiful country. They're all beautiful in their own way. So I'm just a little bit more. I love Egypt just because that's.
Yeah. But Ahmed, now we have you in New York,
yes.
and we're gonna take advantage of that definitely to see more and more of Ahmed. We're gonna follow you on your next comedy show. We're gonna be there.
You should. I'm in the city a lot, performing at the Comedy Cellar. It's in the East Village, and at Ahmed Comedy is my Twitter and Instagram. I'm always posting stuff. So. Yeah.
Do you like Middle Eastern food?
I do. I found this. Well, there's a little place called Mamoun's.
Oh yeah, it's one of the most famous.
Right next to the Comedy Cellar. That has great late night shawarma and falafel. But there's also a little Lebanese place called Elili.
Yes, it's not so little. It's one of the most biggest Lebanese places.
Well, did I say little?
Probably, yeah. No. Probably. Did you say little? Did he say little? Probably I heard
the
it.
The shawarma stand is a little, but Elili on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
They have really great, awesome homemade bread, and it's good. It's good Lebanese for that.
So I'm gonna give you a tip.
Tell me.
Okay. Actually, our camera went to one of the most wonderful Lebanese restaurants also in the city. It's called Baladi, Baladi Your Way and Baladi. And the chef and owner of that restaurant is an amazing chef. And he makes yummy food, okay?
It's called Baladi.
It's called Baladi.
And it's Lebanese.
So, yeah, it's Lebanese, but at the same time, as an Egyptian, like you can pronounce it the way you want, like Baladi, you know, which means my country.
Yeah.
Or it could be Baladi, which means organic,
Yeah.
something that's organic, right? And the food is beyond amazing.
Where in
You're gonna love
the
it.
city?
It's in the city. It's in Manhattan.
I'll
You
have
have
to find it.
Baladi is on 14th Street and First Avenue, if I'm not mistaken. And Baladi Your Way is on the west side, 37th Street, something like that.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yes, you have
Sounds
to check
good.
it out. But meanwhile, since you are with us, we can take you with our camera to
wanna
Baladi
go
Your
there?
Way,
Okay.
and we go there, and then we
do it.
have a little, tour with the chef and owner Roland.
Let's
How
do
about
it.
that?
I'm up for that.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So guys, مشاهدينا خلينا ننتقل نحن وياكم لروبورتاج حضروا برنامج الجسر مع شيف رولاند سمعان صاحب وشيف مطعم بلدي وبلدي Your Way بمنهاتن.